Good afternoon, everyone. All right, I'm sure some people will still trickle in here, and this meeting is being recorded and posted to YouTube after conclusion. Before we kick things off, and I'll explain how things are going to go today, I just want to acknowledge that the University of Manitoba campuses are located on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. So my name is Connor Egan. I'm the current president of the Commerce Students Association, as many of you know. And today we are going to get a chance to hear from all three candidates in this election. So the way it's going to take place is we'll start off with the Vice President and Internal candidate, Betty Mayfarer. So she will have a chance to give a 5-minute speech. Betty, at the 4.5 minute mark, I will just put a note in the chat that just says you have 30 seconds remaining. And then you can conclude, once you conclude your speech, we'll do a 10-minute Q&A for you, just since you're the only candidate. And then we'll move on to the presidential candidate speeches, starting with Cole, and then Kyla will go, and then it'll be a 20-minute Q&A for the presidential candidates. And for those of you who are interested in asking questions in the Q&A, if you go to slido.com, I'll just put the code in the chat here. You can join as a participant and pose any questions and vote on which questions you would like to see asked. So the code's 966400 for the Q&A. But with that, Betty, I'll pass it over to you, and you're welcome to get started with your speech.
Amazing, thank you, Connor. So I just wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to be here this morning, especially with the continuing online setting. My name is Betty Mayfarer. I'm a finance and human resource major in my second year of studies here at the Asper School of Business, and I'm thrilled to be running to be your next Vice President Internal. So before I get into a couple of my campaign points, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about myself and my history with the CSA. So when I first started university, it was at the peak of the pandemic with all of us pretty much physically divided in remote learning. Like many others, I was just coming off a senior year. I didn't even get to finish. And frankly, I was feeling all of the things you feel like when you're new. I was feeling anxious, overwhelmed, scared, out of place. And frankly, I didn't know where to start in getting the support I needed to change that. However, the CSA played a big role in helping me find my footing by welcoming me and providing me with the opportunity to create my own community. For the past 2 years, I've been fortunate enough to stay involved on the CSA General Council through advocacy roles such as First Year Representative and Shinorama Co-Chair. However, what I noticed in leading these committees and facilitating the recruitment process is that there's still multiple barriers facing Asper students from creating their legacy. While I have been able to make valuable connections and grow my skills in these student groups, the same can't be said for a large majority of Asper students struggling to even make it on one. Therefore, that is why my platform consists of 3 main pillars: collaboration, inclusion, and support. Collaboration. It's often forgotten that the events and initiatives the CSA puts on are not just for its general council members and committee members. If you're an Asper student, you're automatically a member of the CSA. And I want to make sure that you know your opinion matters at every level of constructing your undergrad experience. As VPI, I want to personally reach out to all students, international, Indigenous, first year, graduating, and everyone in between. I want to listen to your unique stories, ambitions, and concerns as you move along in your degree. Moreover, I want to bring you to the table of important discussions in opening up our town council hall meetings to all students, giving you a direct line to voice your opinions to the faculty. Most importantly, I want to learn from you in implementing a constant feedback system for the CSA and STAG events right on the CSA website to ensure that we are continuing to improve together and providing value for students. Inclusion. As VPI, I want to put equity, diversity, and inclusion at the forefront of all operations in the CSA and reevaluating and adjusting how we do recruitment as a council. To even have had the opportunity of being priorly involved in Asper is such a privilege, and this needs to be recognized from the executive team down. As VPI, I want to put less of an emphasis on your prior experience in interviews and asking more questions that allow students to show more of their passion for the role and work ethic. Additionally, I want to work together with the appointed EDI officer and Indigenous representative in ensuring we recognize and provide inclusive programming at all of our events, whether it's highlighting local Indigenous businesses in our case events or creating more accessible posts with multiple languages to cater to our international students on our social media pages. I want to make sure that you feel welcome and valued. Last but not least, support. It is no doubt with the remote setting of the past 2 years, it's been difficult for all students in creating connections and getting the help they need. As we head back to campus, I plan to host multiple information and networking sessions for all students new and unfamiliar to Asper. Moreover, I want to further support international students by expanding their potential by prioritizing them in our professional development opportunities, such as mock interviews and resume building sessions, as well as putting forward new mental health initiatives with easily accessible online resources that they can refer to anytime during their adjustment. Finally, I want to maintain constant communication with SAGs to make sure they're getting the proper funding, growth, and exposure from the CSA needed on a higher level. Because at the end of the day, we're both trying to accomplish the same thing. And we need to work together in appreciating and providing value for students. Whatever may come in the incoming year, just know that as VPI, I'm ready and willing to work with you, cater to you, support you, and most of all, advocate for you, as I'm determined to give all my efforts in formulating initiatives that truly help you create your own community and legacy. My name is Betty May Ferrer, and I would be humbly honored to be your next Vice President Internal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Betty. All right, so I'll just remind everyone, the Slido code's there in the chat if you have any questions. We do have some on the board already. So Betty, I'll start by asking you, how do you plan on increasing and improving the relationship with SAGs?
So I think that I think we should be improving the current processes that we currently have on. So doing more frequent check-ins, whether it's just asking the SAG executives just for updates on their end in between the monthly or bi-weekly meetings. I think that can help sort of increase the clarity between all SAGs, making sure that we're not bumping into each other with events and stealing each other's participants.
Awesome, thank you. Next question is, what will you do to ensure that those who have not yet attended university in person will be comfortable upon returning to campus?
Great question. I've actually gotten to talk to a lot of first-year and international students within the past few days, just talking about the campaign. And a lot of the first-year students and international students were very worried about sort of just like navigating campus and all of that. So I think that as VPI, I want to implement sort of like a welcome day, like as we head back during the first sort of fall term, just to make sure that everyone, like implementing tours and doing like a buddy system, buddy day, just to make sure that everyone feels welcome and they have a person to go to create their community and network as much.
Awesome. Next question is, how do you plan on creating value in the mock interviews for both employers and students?
It's a really good question. So for students, it's a big opportunity to build on their skills. So doing sessions beforehand, before meeting the employers, I think that's really important to do, just building their skills before they get with the employers. And then for the employers, it's important to see the students that we currently have, because at the end of the day, when you graduate university, you'll be going into the job force. So it's really important for them to have those connections with the younger students as they move on. But yeah.
Awesome. What plans do you have to improve the current recruitment process of the CSA, and how will you ensure that your team will carry that vision forward?
That's a really good question. So for me, I think it starts with just myself and the appointed president, just going through and making it clear that we are not sort of a business, like we shouldn't be prioritizing prior experience within the recruitment process. We should be looking at individual personalities and those soft skills that can help them succeed in those individual roles. Throughout carrying that through with the executive team, it's just all about talking about that and making that, starting off the recruitment process at every meeting, just clarifying that and making sure that everyone knows and is on the same page.
Great. How do you plan on growing the mentorship program to make it more valuable for both first-year mentees and their mentors?
That's a really good question. Kyle has done an amazing job being a mentor myself this year. It's been great getting to know a bunch of the first years and new students to Asper. I think sort of growing on that, I think more challenges and then getting to know people, especially as we move along into in-person, more networking events for those students, because at the end of the day, they're part of the mentorship program because they're trying to learn something and create their own community. So I think that's something I'd like to implement as we head back onto campus.
Awesome. What other commitments do you have in the next year, and how do you plan on managing your time?
Perfect. So I usually work full time in the summer, and I do plan on doing that in the upcoming summer as well. As we move along, just from what I've heard from Kyla and all the other execs, it tends to get sometimes sort of hectic being an exec. So I would make sure to prioritize this as well, but also my studies. So taking 3 to 4 classes each term, and just making sure that I'm managing my time wisely when it comes to the CSA.
Awesome. Do you have any EDI initiatives in mind?
EDI initiatives. I think that starts off with the recruitment process, as I've said in my speech. So just making sure that there are no sort of barriers or biases within that, even though we all have biases and we need to work towards that. For EDI initiatives, I think building on what they've currently had, what Kyla has done with this year with the manual. I think that should be done, and sort of doing more sessions with students and all student groups and stags, making sure that we know what sort of process to do and standardizing those as such.
Okay, and confidentiality is a huge part of the VPI role. How do you plan on being able to see past friendships from confidentiality?
That's a really good question. So as VPI, I would take my role very much seriously. If it needs to be set at the beginning that this is my role, you need to respect the confidentiality. If somebody were to come to me and talk to me about something, that would stay between us, because as VPI, it's an HR-based role and that needs to stay confidential. If a friend weren't able to respect that, I personally wouldn't think that they'd be a true friend. So I would have no problem with that at all.
All right, just a couple more questions here. What specific strategies will you use to recruit students who have no idea what the CSA is and what we do?
It's a really good question. I think that we should be doing information sessions like right when we get into the fall year, when the new students start coming around. And I think that it starts off with the executive team council, just taking that extra initiative to reach out to those international students, those first year students, making sure that they feel that we want you to have these opportunities and we want you to know about them so you can come to us and feel comfortable creating your own legacy and your own community.
Perfect. And last question, what is something that you personally learned from your current position on CSA, and how do you plan on improving if you were elected VPI?
So something I've learned from my current role as Shinorama co-chair on CSA, it's a lot been about time management and sort of during the stressful times. So whenever it's like with Shinorama, it's pretty event based. So sometimes when we have like specific events, it takes a lot of planning before, like our big Shine Week. Something I've learned is sort of during the stressful times, it's important that you remind yourself what you're doing the role for. So at the end of the day, it's advocacy, and that's what you're there for, to be a voice for those who don't have it. And I think that as VPI, I will be continuing to do that as well, and continuing to improve upon that, listening to other student stories and their concerns, because at the end of the day, it's an advocacy role and an HR-based role, and I want to hear from you so I can better build and advocate for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Betty. And that concludes our Q&A period for the Vice President internal role. And with that, I will call up Cole Hutchison to deliver his 5-minute speech, our first presidential candidate. Cole, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thanks, Connor. Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to come and listen to us all. My name is Cole Hutchison, and I'm thrilled to be running to be your next CSA president. Returning to campus after 2 years away is something many of us are looking forward to, and with it brings a responsibility to withhold and uphold the strong CSA brand, but also brings an opportunity for change. Before I talk about my pillars, I'd like to share a little bit about me. I'm in my 3rd year majoring in finance and first got involved with the CSA during my 1st year on the 5 Days Committee as the general coordinator. In my 2nd year, I was on the Shinorama Committee, got involved with STAGS as the executive assistant on ASBA, and was the 5 Days co-chair on the CSA General Council. Currently, I am the Vice President Social Events and oversee a portfolio of 8 and 3 committees. I've enjoyed every minute of my time being involved with school, and I want to ensure that everyone who wants to be involved can be. One aspect of this involves communication. There are so many excellent opportunities available to us from so many different sources that it can be overwhelming to try and find the right opportunity for you. I want to implement a consolidated directory of opportunities to list everything that's available, from scholarships to case competitions to volunteer options, all in one place with their application dates, time commitment, and links to learn more about the roles to help you find the perfect match. Another aspect of communication is increased feedback. The CSA councils exist to serve the whole student body, and I want to make sure that we are focusing on what matters most to you. I want to create an easily accessible forum with the option to be anonymous so everyone feels comfortable sharing their opinions. This ties into my pillar of inclusion as well. I believe inclusion is about more than allowing everyone to be involved. It's about actively reaching out and encouraging people who may not otherwise have explored the options and providing equity in the recruitment and application process. Inclusion is also about creating a welcoming environment for everyone, something I want to do with the CSA office when we return to campus by having more coffee and hot chocolate days to encourage people to come check out the space and utilizing the TVs around the Drake Center to advertise that the office is for anyone to hang out, not just general council members. In the meantime, office hours can be held virtually, such as on the CSA Discord channel. Switching gears now to talk about sustainability, I believe the CSA, like any organization, should be focusing on the environmental impacts of its operations and looking into ways to reduce waste. There are many small actions that, when done together, can make big changes. For example, during exam crams and coffee days, when food and drinks are given out to students, we can encourage people to bring their own dish or cup by offering free refills as an incentive. Another example is cutting down on the number of paper handouts and instead using smaller cards with QR codes linking to further information. Another idea is using the monthly blog to share ways we can all be a little bit greener in our lives. Sustainability and environmental concerns is a huge topic and is one that we can begin addressing together. My final pillar is collaboration. One aspect of this is increasing the number of professional development opportunities, from industry panels to workshops on the basics like personal finance. By collaborating with the business community, we can bring in the knowledge to share with students. Another way I want to collaborate is to bring deals through a student deals card to partner with local businesses and restaurants. I also want to provide ASPR students with opportunities to connect with other faculties. This includes interfaculty case competitions and partnering with them in the aforementioned workshops. Finally, I want to set up collaborations between the CSA and student action groups, STAGs, that are mutually beneficial and respect the autonomy of both parties. This could include sharing resources, such as contacts for venues, MCs, and caterers, and looking to co-host events together. I want to ensure that STAGs receive the attention they deserve and that their events are not booked at the same time as CSA events so that they have their time to shine. These initiatives I have laid out are just the start of what I hope to achieve as your president. As we head back in person, we will have a major learning curve ahead of us, but this can be used as an opportunity to make great things happen. If you have any thoughts on my platform or want to discuss anything in more detail, I'd love to connect and chat. I'm Cole Hutchison, and I want to be your president. Thank you.
Thank you, Cole. Now I'll call upon Kyla May Dekanai, our second presidential candidate. Kyla, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Connor. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here today, especially with our current virtual setting. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kyla May Dekanai, and I'm running to be your next CSA president. I'm a third-year ASPR student who is majoring in human resources, but more importantly, you're probably wondering, why is she here? Why does she want to be CSA president? Who is she, and what does she have to offer? But to be honest with you, it's not about me. It's about all of you. The Commerce Students Association was not created to help one student every year succeed or evolve. The CSA is about enriching the lives of all undergraduate students at the Asper School of Business. So this election, and the reason why I'm here, is because of all of you. I want you to feel proud of who is president and representing you as the Asper student body next year. My campaign centers around tangible initiatives, and if elected as your next president, this is what I have to offer you. My first platform focuses on advocate. As president, I will put your student welfare and best interest at the forefront of any situation or decision. I plan to do that by consistently bringing any of your concerns and input to the dean's office during regular monthly meetings. Our dean's office truly cares for Asper students, and I hope to closely work with them by communicating all your voices and ensuring that your input is heard. Improving the CSA's events is always a top priority by the organization, and I look forward to listening and implementing your feedback to make any necessary changes to better our initiatives. Another idea I plan to start is a student life podcast in order to bring awareness and have open conversations with students about aspects of university life, such as mental health, or about what it's like to start your career in the business world. I really look forward to fostering an atmosphere that is supportive among students through this initiative. My next campaign pillar focuses on community, which is about creating an environment that is welcoming, encourages learning, and prioritizes making an impact. I want to expand the CSA's connections with Winnipeg charities to provide volunteer opportunities for Asper students and increase our school's impact in our local community. EDI, equity, diversity, and inclusion, has also been a main priority for the Asper School, and I plan to elevate our initiatives by providing more learning opportunities to all our students and continuously reevaluating CSA operations. As students and future business leaders, we need to do our part and promote sustainability. I look forward to being more intentional and eco-conscious about the resources our student organization utilizes in our initiatives, such as what materials we're using for brochures or even giveaway bags. As president, I will prioritize a culture of growth, integrity, and humility by encouraging everyone on our council to make efforts towards welcoming all Asper students to our initiatives. I know what it's like to feel intimidated at Asper. I was once a first-year student who was scared and I didn't know what I was doing in business school. But I think it's important that our student leaders involved with the CSA or STAGs set the example and be the ones to reach out rather than waiting for people to come to us. My last platform focuses on support. I think the CSA does an amazing job with providing Asper students networking and professional growth opportunities. But I think there's room for improvement when it comes to offering actual services that support our students' well-being and growth during their day-to-day life at Asper. With the last 2.5 years being virtual, one service I really look forward to implementing is maps and campus tour services to help students who have never been to university before navigate their way through the Asper School building. I also plan on providing personal finance education and resources to our students and creating a job shadow program where students are given the opportunity to go with a company representative to their workplace and get insight into their career. As business students, we're in an environment that is so fast-paced and focused on growth and development, but as growing adults, sometimes that can be overwhelming. And with all these events, classes, and jobs, having a space to just breathe and take a couple of minutes to reset your energy is all you need to keep going. But we don't currently have that at Asper. So I want to designate a room in our school as a prayer and meditation room. As CSA president, my goal is to advocate for you, support you, and build a community with you at Asper. And I am so excited to be able to do that. And I hope you give me the opportunity by voting in this election. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyla. All right, now we will begin the Q&A period. So the way we'll do this is we'll just alternate who answers the question first. So the first question I'll ask is, what kind of culture do you see yourself creating as CSA president? And Kyla, I'll start with you.
Yeah, perfect question. Thank you. As I mentioned during my speech, I think, again, a culture of just growth, humility, and integrity, being transparent and open with our students, but also having that within the CSA, like all students are part of the CSA. And I think everyone deserves to feel like they are encouraged to be able to achieve whatever that may be, whether that's through co-op, whether that's exchange, whether that's on CSA, JDC, case competitions. There's so many opportunities, and I've talked to a lot of students during my time as VPI, and a lot of people just need a little push and need a little shoulder tap to be able to do that. And I think that starts from myself all the way to my exec team and then the CSA, and it kind of just trickles down.
I agree with Kyla for a lot of that. The culture I would like to create with the CSA is one that is inclusive and transparent. Being on the outside in my first year and a half, I felt like the CSA was a very tight-knit group and I wanted to be a part of it for sure. But it doesn't have to be like that. It would be excellent if everyone felt invited in. And I think that making the office a friendly space, having the executive team and the general counsel reach out, talk to more people, encourage them to get involved, starting at the with smaller roles such as volunteering or on a committee is a great way to get started. And I definitely agree with Kyla that a lot of people just need a shoulder tap. And in doing this, making sure that we are reaching out to everyone, not just friends when we're shoulder tapping, to ensure that everyone is able to benefit from the CSA and everything we offer.
Thank you both. Just before I ask the next question, I will make a note. If you guys want to ask questions for individual candidates, that's totally okay as well. This next question is specifically just for Kyla. What topics will be presented on the podcast? Who will host it and bear the responsibilities?
Yeah, for sure. So as mentioned, I really plan on touching on aspects that are part of university life. And really the purpose of the podcast is really, again, to create that supportive environment. I think a lot of us feel the exact same way in university. You're overwhelmed, you're stressed, you don't have motivation. And I think whenever I feel those things, I feel encouraged when I'm surrounded by the same people. Like I know that my friends feel that way. And I think we can do that at Asper. We can do that in the CSA. And I think it starts by talking about it. So the Student Life podcast really focuses on just, we can talk about mental health. We can talk about how scared it is, how scared people are when it comes to just starting your career in the business world. I think there's a lot of pressure when it comes to that. And in terms of who would be involved, I would try to get people who aren't on CSA involved with that, put out notices of whoever wants to be involved and to talk about their experiences. And also I look forward to possibly specifically having a certain person mitigate those. I was planning to do it myself just as a CSA president, and I would love to be able to lead that and talk about it. But for future years, of course, I would be open to just having other students involved and maybe even having a team lead that, because I can't do that myself. An initiative like that is big, and I would look forward to working with other students on it.
Thank you, Kyla. And Cole, this question's for you. You talked about a feedback system in your campaign posts and your speech. How do you plan to get students to actively participate using this tool?
That is an excellent question. I think the first part of getting people to participate is making it easily accessible by including it in our social media bios, by posting about it and making people aware that it exists. In doing this, also having some giveaways for people who participate is a good way to get the word out about it at the start, and possibly at certain points throughout the year to remind people that it exists. These giveaways could be done anonymously as well, with a second form that would pop up at the end to ensure that the feedback we are receiving is unbiased and what people truly feel about what we can improve and what we are doing well.
Thank you. This question is for both candidates. As you are already on the executive team this year, what would you say is a weakness of yours, and where do you feel you can grow next year as president?
Sorry, Connor, did you want one of us to go first?
Yeah, Kyla, you can go first.
Okay. Personally, for me, this is a bit more of a personal trait. I'm big on support. I think if you personally know me, I love supporting students, encouraging students, and that's kind of what my platform centers around. And something that I've learned this year is really being able to balance that. Like, obviously, when you're in a leadership position, it comes with a lot of responsibility and it can take a toll on you. I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm very open to that. Like, it's hard to be an exec, it's hard to be VPI, I'm sure it's hard to be president, but at the end of the day, putting yourself as a leader, like putting yourself as a leader first and making sure you take care of yourself and really just also communicating that with your executive team, the people under you, is super important, because I think it makes you a better leader. It really just encourages other students. And at the end of the day, like, yeah, we can do all these amazing things, but you really have to prioritize yourself. And that's super important. And I would communicate that with my entire team, because it's important to be able to be the leader that you want to be. So that's the biggest lesson that I learned this year. And I'm sure I will continue to try to develop that and grow next year, but I'm looking forward to doing that with everybody involved with the CSA.
One thing I've learned this year through my time on the Executive Council is the importance of delegating tasks. I feel I've learned this throughout my term pretty well, but it's an area to continue improving, especially if I end up in the role of president, as there are just that many more tasks and responsibilities that I would be overseeing. This is especially important to choose a strong team, and I believe that's possible. And this year's team is very strong as well. So yes, delegating, making sure that people know what they're supposed to be doing, making sure that roles are very clearly defined, so that if I delegate a task and someone's not able to, they're more than comfortable to come back and say, can you do it? And be more than happy to, but that way I'm not stepping on anybody's toes and everyone feels like they are accomplishing what they want to out of their role.
Perfect. And this question is also for both of you. How will you work to ensure that cliques do not form amongst the general council and or executive members? And Cole, we'll start with you.
I think one way to help ensure that there are no cliques formed among the executive council and with the general council is to have more bonding events for the whole council, to encourage people to interact with not just their friends on the council, but everybody. Oftentimes portfolios get close because they are working on similar events, and that's excellent, but also providing opportunities to talk with people you might not normally, such as people who do a lot of the work behind the scenes. By doing this, and also by fostering a fun environment. On Slack, there are different channels where you can post anything you want, random jokes, trying to get those channels started up and more active so that we get to know people on a more personal basis instead of just in a professional setting, I think will also help with this.
I think this is a great question. And I think something that worked this year on the CSA is how we randomize teams sometimes when it comes to when we do internal bonding events, such as retreats, GC days, or even just our Olympic teams where we do bonding. And I think I would want to continue that. But further to that, I want to set an expectation within the CSA that it is our job to reach out to students. We cannot be waiting for them to come to us, to buy tickets, to give our textbooks, like anything that we do, we can't be waiting for students. We have to reach out to them. And that is everybody's responsibility on the CSA. And as president, I would set that as an expectation for us to be the ones reaching out, welcoming these students and not waiting for them because they're scared. Like, the people on CSA know exactly what it's like to feel scared and intimidated, and we have to do our part in making sure that they feel welcomed and it's not cliquey and you're welcomed, and not forming that habit of just talking or catching up with your friends at these events.
Okay, not everyone has social media or wants to have social media. How are you going to reach students in a more inclusive and full way? And Kyla, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Like, to be honest, if I wasn't involved with the CSA, I also wouldn't really be on social media. It's not really just my thing. But I think one way, again, when we go back in person, having those posters, having the CSA office be welcoming, it's there. Students see our events, people know about this office that's there. And I think us, again, providing that welcoming atmosphere when people say like, oh, what is that room? Being the person to be like, oh, come here, like, check it out. This is the CSA office. This is what the CSA is about. Like, being that welcoming person. And I think that obviously stems from me, and then for the rest of the executive team and the general counsel. And then through a virtual setting, just utilizing other resources that we can. Again, the Dean's Office is so supportive of the CSA and our initiatives, and I would work with them and able to just communicate with our students beyond just social media, because I know it's not everybody's niche, and that's perfectly fine.
I think the first step in this conversation is making people aware of the CSA. On campus, this could be done with the TVs around the Drake Center for advertisements, advertising also the CSA office, and being able to reach out and chat with anyone on the general council or exec. Furthermore, I think we can use more channels to reach students, such as the Discord channel that was launched this year, which has been underutilized to some extent. So I think ramping up and making sure we're sharing our opportunities in several places could help. Also with the directory for the opportunities, being able to advertise that as a one-stop shop to go and see everything that's available, and being able to filter it by what you're looking for, whether that's a short time commitment or a scholarship or anything like that. So yes, having different channels to reach students, utilizing the emails as well, having frequent ones sent out about events, and also the blog.
Thank you. Kyla, there's two questions here specifically about points you've mentioned. So the first is, a podcast requires a significant investment of time, very specific skills such as sound editing and resources. Where do you plan to source those?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, again, that just comes with working with a team and people at Asper. I want to work with students. I love that. I've had a passion for it ever since I was in the 8th grade. I've been a student involved since I was a kid, and I love it. I continue to do it. And great things happen when people work together. It's not about me. It's not about what I can do, or it's just like, I want to work with people. And I think there's so many talented people at Asper. Like, you'd be surprised how many people would be able to put a student life podcast together. And I think I would reach out and find those people to be able to do that. And I think there's even certain people on the CSA right now who would be able to carry that out. They do a lot of things on their own, and just bringing in that passion they have for those things, I think would be great.
Before I ask you the next question, I'll do one for Cole. Cole, what type of businesses would you aim to include in the discount card that you mentioned?
I would aim to start with local businesses to not only provide deals to students, but to highlight them as well. This could include local Indigenous businesses, restaurants, and then moving on to larger places that are close to campus that students could benefit from. I know a large thing, restaurants, going out to eat is one expense, and one way to connect with friends, that it would be great if there were deals there. But yes, starting with local businesses.
Awesome. Kyla, how do you plan on creating a prayer and meditation room at Asper?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, some of you may know that the Asper School building is actually under construction, and it's being finished to for the time period when we go back to school. And there's a lot of rooms kind of opening up in space that allows for new initiatives. And the Dean's Office has actually asked us, like, what do we want to do with this space? And I think the prayer and meditation room idea just came to my head as I was thinking about my campaign. And I think it would be great if that's not an option. We have rooms in the CSA office that could be used. And there's a lot of resources, again, to create that space, to decorate it and provide that aura where it's soundproof, where you have just whatever whatever resources students need to utilize to be able to just like reset during the day.
This is the second year that the advocacy representative position is vacant. How do you plan on ensuring that that position is filled and that the CSA has a voice to UMSU and Senate? Cole, I'll start with you.
I think for the advocacy rep, it's a position that's not talked about as much. A lot of our events get a lot of social media attention and are talked about. So those events on general council are well known, but the advocacy rep does a lot of work behind the scenes to represent all of us at UMSU. So I think taking the time to appreciate the role, explain better what it does, and also in making more students aware of the CSA opportunities by casting a wider net. This could be involved in that. So people who might not even know about the opportunity can learn about it and get involved.
This is an excellent question, and I don't think a lot of people know about the privilege and the honor to be advocacy representative. I've been to a couple of UMSU board director meetings this year, and the advocacy rep has a ton of say in terms of what UMSU does, and what UMSU does obviously affects Asper students. And I think just promoting that, the advocacy rep has a vote as a board of director, and it's absolutely insane that they have that say. And you can talk about things like tuition, you can talk about compassionate grading, you can talk about the UPass, like you have a say in all those things, and that's awesome. That's things that students are really worrying about every single year, especially with COVID. And I think emphasizing that and promoting that a student has the opportunity to be able to have a say in that from Asper to be able to help our community is really good. And I think we need to do better of advertising that.
Okay, what specific strategies will you use to support your executive team and ensure they do not burn out or lose motivation? Kylie, you can start.
Yeah, this is an excellent question. So specifically to my executive team, I think one aspect is, again, just being honest. I want to provide that honest atmosphere where if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel like you need extra support, you can come to me for that. You can come to any exec for that, because that's what your executive team is about. I think something that's unsaid about being on exec is just, it's tough, but there's 7 other people around you that know what it's like. And I think communicating and talking about that is so important, and setting that foundation of like respect, integrity, and them coming to me for support. As it's mentioned, like I'm a previous exec and I know what it's like, and I've built experience, and I don't want my future executive team, who will most likely be comprised of a lot of new individuals, to feel intimidated by that, because that honestly kind of doesn't matter. Like I'm here with you. I'm here to support you as your president. If you need something, come to me. If you need to talk about something, come to me. And I'm also open to feedback. Like if there's something that I need to improve on, because every leader needs to improve on, like I'm okay with that. So that open atmosphere of just communication and honesty is what I really look forward to, amongst other things.
As a current exec as well, I also definitely understand the struggles and the time commitment that comes with a role like this. And I think that, like Kyla mentioned, there's a whole team of us. There are different levels of, or different busy times for different roles. So being open with your team and saying, this is a really busy time, is anyone able to help out with this? Also then coming to me if I'm in the role of president and explaining, I can help delegate. I can take a look at what I can take on myself as well. And just being there as a friend to listen and to provide some feedback and ideas if that's what they're looking for as well. Kind of just being a sounding board and making sure that the executive team gets along well. The culture that will be created is especially important. It's not about experience when we're recruiting. It's about the work ethic and the cohesion that will be made with the group. That I think is also an important aspect of that, to feel that we can support each other, especially in the busy times.
Awesome. We'll do one last question. 1 year can go by really quickly, especially with there are many responsibilities of the CSA. How will you ensure that your initiatives actually happen?
That is an excellent question, and I can attest to the year going by very quickly. I think one important aspect to look at is how these promises can be split up. So some include specific events or collaborating with other groups. Those can be dispersed. Building a directory can be delegated to another person on the team or another group within the council. So creating a strong plan at the start of the year, getting feedback on who's most excited about what parts to help take on and fulfill the initiatives, because at the end of the day, it's not myself doing all of it, it's leading a team that together can make all of these changes.
I think it's an excellent question. And one way I would do that is really strategically planning and understanding what I need to prioritize as president. So for example, the meditation room, campus tour services, like those are needed right away for once when we go back in person, so it's ready. But things like personal finance education resources, the student life podcast, that can wait till when we start school and be worked on a little bit into September and right before that, just to plan so it's ready and ahead. So I think it's just important as myself to be aware that, okay, you want to do a lot of things, which is great, but you have to prioritize and really utilize my resources again to really understand where it lies in terms of prioritization, and again, asking for help. I think it's super important, just again, with the support from our faculty, support from students. That's how I would really ensure that I get my initiatives done, and also carrying it out into the next year. Again, the year goes by fast. Like, I can't believe I'm sitting here in front of all of you doing another speech, but ensuring that, okay, like if something wasn't fully done to the capacity that I may have wanted, then continuing on that next year, and the person who's in it, I'm sure they will carry it on and make it even better than I probably started it or laid the foundation off for it.
Awesome. Well, that concludes the Q&A period for the presidents. Thank you all for being here. I know it's very important to have the opportunity to hear from all the candidates in an election. So I appreciate you all taking the time to be here on a Friday afternoon. And thank you to the candidates. I know it takes a lot to get up there, and it takes a lot of courage to participate in an election. So well done, Betty, Cole, Kyla. You guys should all be proud of yourselves already. This concludes our 2022 candidate speeches and Q&A. So just a reminder that the voting period is taking place next week, February 2nd at 9 a.m. Voting will open, and it'll conclude February 3rd at 4 p.m. So please go out and cast your vote and spread the word on social media that these elections are taking place. But with that, have a good weekend, everyone.